This week, we are celebrating charities all over the world in a great global effort to recognize charities and humanitarian work. This is done through the Podcasthon that was founded in 2023 with 300 French-speaking podcasters. It grew to over 400 in 2024, and in 2025, there were over 1,500 podcasts that participated in over 40 countries. So I know that there are over 2,000 this year in the 2026 Podcastathon. I felt like this was a great place for me to contribute because I do like to interview people who are in the charity world. And so I'm excited for this episode of the Sendy Mom podcast with Svitlana Miller from To Ukraine with Love. Please enjoy our conversation.
I think women, we operate at our capacity, no matter what we do. We are at capacity doing our best that day. We never wake up with all the responsibilities. Running organizations or maximizing on these huge callings. You just take one day at a time and you learn new things, and then you kind of start doing a little more. You have more kids on your arms that you're carrying, maybe at some point even grandkids. Then you're just like, okay, this is life. You add one drop at a time, and somehow your capacity increases to do more every day. That's what I have learned.
I'm Becky Brower, and I'm a Sendy Mom. Welcome to the Sendy Mom podcast.
Welcome to the Sendy Mom podcast. I am so excited to be here with my friend Svitlana Miller. And Svitlana is from the Ukraine, and she has been very involved with the Ukraine-Russia war since it began, but also just has a really soft spot for the Ukrainian people in particular. And I'm so excited to kind of unpack a lot of this stuff with you today. It's going to be amazing. So the organization that Svitlana runs is called To Ukraine with Love. And she's going to kind of tell her story a little bit about how that got started, where it's at now, and some of the needs that they have at this point. But generally on this podcast, I really like to focus on the individual and like how you got to be so courageous. I mean, to run a nonprofit organization, like to just start it from nothing is like, that's really heady. That takes a lot of grit and a lot of determination and courage to do. What do you think a Sendy Mom is, and what makes you a Sendy Mom?
Well, I love the title Sendy Mom, because if you are a mom, you're probably a Sendy Mom too. All of us, I think women, we operate at our capacity, no matter what we do. If we have one child or 10, and we are at capacity doing our best that day. We never wake up with all the responsibilities. Running organizations or maximizing on these huge callings. You just take one day at a time and you learn new things, and then you kind of start doing a little more. You have more kids on your arms that you're carrying, maybe at some point even grandkids. Then you're just like, okay, this is life. You add one drop at a time, and somehow your capacity increases to do more every day. That's what I have learned.
Yeah. And for sure, like sometimes we look at people and we see, oh my gosh, she's doing this and this and this and this, and I could never do that. But she didn't start out doing all of those things that she's doing. It's just like, you can't even see yourself, all the little drops that you're doing. And then, suddenly you're like, oh, I've kind of done a lot of stuff in my life. I feel pretty, and the capacity, I love how you said capacity. One of the last ones that I interviewed, Meredith, she talked about that. And I thought that was so beautiful. Like we can't increase our time on this earth, really. We only have so much time, but we can increase our capacity and our ability to handle the kinds of things that come in our way. And you just take it one at a time. So,
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you take it one drop at a time and watch your capacity increase. And also, I think there is such potential in women that it's like you said, you don't think of yourself being able to do all of these things. You romanticize people you read about from the past and how amazing they were, and how maybe you could never be that amazing, and maybe I couldn't. But I think today, if every woman truly didn't just know it, but also believed the fact that every one of us is a hero of our own story, and our capacity to do hard things is almost limitless. Like, we have so much to give, all of us. We each can and are a Sandy mom of our own story.
absolutely. Yeah. And it doesn't mean that you're always Sunday either. Like there are, you're going to get half the time you're pretty courageous and amazing. And half the time you're just a hot mess, and we just, you wake up and your house is a mess and you have dishes in the sink and you have to go and work on a nonprofit that you really believe in. And that's okay too.
Right. It's just maybe that's your season.
Yeah.
And I
Exactly.
think getting through it, a part of it is to come to terms of it, to say I'm not going to be stressed about it.
Yeah.
This is, I accept this. I choose this
Right.
for the greater good to
Love
do that.
Yeah, I love that.
Um,
Well, tell me a little bit of your story, like where you grew up and the type of family that you grew up in, like how many brothers and sisters and everything.
yeah, I grew up in the capital of Ukraine, in Kyiv. Um, I love Kyiv. I still think it's one of the most beautiful cities in the world. I go five generations back to right there, the streets of Kyiv. And so I actually, before the war in Ukraine, I never had any family or relatives or anybody to visit in smaller towns and villages in Ukraine, where we were always just my grandma, great grandma, great great grandma. We all grew up in the same part of the city.
Huh.
And so it's just kind of, for Europe, people just kind of, they
Yeah,
grow up exactly where their ancestors were, right there.
it's true. Yeah.
And so, but I was raised by an amazing mom. It was just me and my brother. He was 9 years younger than me. And my mom always shared that he's got two moms. He had me and her, and we had to carry that responsibility together. My mom raised me as a friend more than a mom. She always said that. I was her friend. She had me
How did
pretty
you feel
young. And
about that? How did like that relationship, was that good to have that
yeah,
closeness?
I loved it. I didn't know any other way. I can't imagine being raised differently. But my mom, she was young and beautiful, and she's the kind of mom that all of my friends would come and they want to talk to her, and they wanted to go through her makeup and her cool clothes. And so she was this fun, modern mom who was just,
Hip.
yes, and just creative. And
Uh-huh.
she was a pretty amazing mom. And
And what about your dad?
so my parents got divorced when I was pretty young. I was still a baby. My mom got married when she was 19, and by the time she had me a couple months later, and then that marriage didn't work out. And so she ended up getting married again, and that's when she had my brother, and that marriage kind of crashed and burned as well, at a really bad time for my mom. Around the same time, she lost her mother, someone she had been so close to, and the closest person to her in her world. And so she lost her marriage. My stepdad, she loved a lot, and she lost my grandma. And so I watched her go through some really hard things and do still amazing things with her life, build a beautiful business without any education, higher education behind her.
Wow.
And she just had that motto of moving forward. What are we going to do next? You don't stop dreaming. You dream big. You don't allow your current circumstance dictate the limits of where you can go. You can go anywhere and you can do amazing big things.
Wow.
She just was kind of an amazing, positive person. Looking back, like many times in my life, I've thought, that was crazy. Like she was just unreasonably positive.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know that I would, um, choose that for even myself. Like I kind of think you got to be reasonable. You got to kind of dream within your means.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
my
Reasonable
mom was
dreams.
the
Yeah.
opposite of that. She was like, you can do anything. She loved like sitting in the kitchen at night and creating these vivid scenarios of what could happen with my future and my brothers. And imagine if you just, got to this level through hard work and dedication and some, help from God. He loves hard work. You can do this, and then help will come from the side. And I don't know, some of these scenarios were so specific about me, like stepping in and saving people from not being able to understand each other because they don't speak the same language. And I could come in and I could master language and be this master translator that saves the day and
That gives
saves
me
the room.
chills,
And I
Svitlana.
just remember listening to that. And like, I can even remember what things I was picturing in my mind as she was
Yeah.
saying all these things. And looking back, I'm like, why did she like have these? But it was just the way she lived. She dreamed
Yeah.
for us, for me and my brother, and for herself.
And look at that. I mean, that's really true. Like we create the lives that we want through our thoughts, right? But we
Right.
can also help our children to learn that optimism by just giving them these stories that can be totally outrageous. But look what you've done. You've totally fulfilled that.
I have fulfilled many of these stories, and it's kind of like, wow, my mom was either the most unreasonable person on earth or just the
Visionary.
most faithful and
Yeah.
just courageous. It takes courage to
Yeah.
believe. I didn't really understand that when I was young.
As a single mom. Okay, so tell me about this business that she built. I'm super interested in your mom because she sounds like a super sexy woman.
She is amazing. She's amazing. And the business that she built, when the Soviet Union fell apart in the early 90s, every country that was under the cap of the Soviet Union ended up operating independently.
Yes.
Which they hadn't done in decades. And so navigating through that was super difficult for each of the countries. For example, if cars were manufactured by the Soviet Union, maybe engines were made in Ukraine and, upholstery was made in Belarus and,
So
other
all the
parts.
resources were totally
Yes,
fragmented.
they were just fragmented. And
Yeah.
all of a sudden, when the collapse happened, you couldn't manufacture cars because now each country was acting independently and operating with taxes and borders needed import and exports. And so for the first several years, you had stores that had literally nothing sold on the shelves. You walk into a store, there's no clothing, because everything was just kind of working as one big machine that now lost separate pieces and couldn't operate together.
Okay.
And so my mom got into this business of trying to figure out how to help people who were brave enough to start their businesses. And with the Soviet mindset, there was no such a thing as a business. Everything was government owned and government operated.
Nobody knew how to do it.
But, right. And so there were people who, for the first time, started trying to figure out how do we offer some products on the market that maybe aren't available in Ukraine. Maybe we bring them from Western Europe because those borders are now available to us and the goods are available. But you had to figure out how to navigate through paying, incoming import and export taxes with the government to calculate for businesses how they could bring in products and how much they would owe when the trucks are at the border.
Got it.
And so she did that. She started a government regulated agency that helped businesses calculate how to bring products in and how to export as well. So import and
without
export.
any kind of degree.
Without any kind of degree.
She just figured it out.
She had a woman who she was introduced to who said, I am thinking of running a couple of these agencies and would you help me? And she stepped in and learned the trade. And then this woman went on to do her real estate businesses. And she said, I'm not interested in that anymore. And my mom said, I think I am going to keep running and start my own. And so she got it to be bigger than
She
even
really
when she
grew
was
it
a part.
then.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was
What
amazing.
a great example for you. Like, and then you were
Yes.
able to take it. I mean, that's the thing is like so many people think that they're stuck, right? Like, I have to get a job. I have to get a job, you know, and they're looking everywhere and they can't find anything. If you can't get a job, go make a job.
Right.
There are so many needs that are out there. You just have to find the right need and then you can figure anything out. If you're willing to put the work into it, you can figure it out. It just takes some and how great that you learned that from your mom at such a young age. And how did you feel about her working and you were kind of helping to raise your younger brother, right?
Right. I had to drop him off at school, pick him up. She wasn't home, you know, a lot. During the week, she was there on weekends. She would always cook throughout the weekend. So we had enough food for the whole week because weeks were so packed for her. But she would come home and share really real things, how scared she was to go and talk to customs inspectors, that this wasn't just something that she decided to do. This was a new industry. Every industry was a new industry in the early 90s in Eastern Europe.
Right.
Because all these countries were trying to figure out how to operate on their own. And so were people in them. And so she would say how scared she was and how she didn't know how she would come with this contract from a company that really needs to bring their goods in, and how a couple of customs officers really took mercy on her. One of them knew she was a single mom, and he just said, come in, sit down at my desk. We'll figure it out together. And she would just share with me how some people were kind, some were mean. But in the end, it was scary to try, but she didn't have anything to lose, only to gain.
Yeah.
And so going through that fear, and she always said that courage wasn't being fearless, that there's so much fear, that you're so scared doing these new things, but it's still going forward and trying them.
And just doing it anyway.
While you're feeling that fear.
Through the fear.
Right.
Yeah. I love that so much. Yeah. Because it's true, because a lot of times we look at these heroes, you know, these heroes that we see, or these people that are doing amazing things, and we think, wow, how can they just be so confident through all of this? But really, all of us in the back of our mind are like, I have no idea what I'm doing, and I'm just taking the next step, and I'm going to do it anyway. So I had another friend on the podcast, Rachel Miner, who talked about, because I talked to her about imposter syndrome a little bit, because she's pretty young and she's running this huge nonprofit, right? And she said, I put on, it's just the glasses I put on, they're my resourceful glasses, and I put them on and I can see what my resources are, and I just take the next step to getting to where my resources need to be. So I love that about your mom. Is she still alive? Is she still with us?
She is. She actually ended up moving to the United States 14 years ago. Once my brother and I were here and our families were here, once the grandkids came, she felt like she didn't really want to be apart. So she moved here, which was so brave, because she didn't speak a word of English. She never drove. She grew up in the city where there's subways and full transportation system. She never drove, so she learned to drive, learned to speak English. She made friends and figured out, found a community of people where she could make herself useful. I'm so proud of her.
And sometimes it's out of necessity. I mean, she had to provide for her family, and so she did. She figured out how to do that, and she probably would have preferred to, stay at home with her kids and have a husband who's, providing and whatever.
Exactly.
But sometimes necessity breeds like a lot of courage. So
and beautiful things.
And absolutely beautiful things. Did you ever feel neglected as a child?
I think about that a lot now that I travel and how much time I dedicate to my work. I think to the few times when I clearly remember thinking like, oh, I thought my mom was going to be there. There's a moment when I was graduating from a music school. My mom was so proud that she was able not to just provide for me and my brother, but to put me through so I would graduate from that music school, majoring in piano performance. And on graduation day, she wasn't able to make it. It was so hard for her to pay that tuition, and she struggled so much. But I think I was 15 when I was graduating, and she couldn't be there on that day. And I've had, flashbacks to that, like hoping that I'm not missing big things, in my kids' lives. And I think my mom just thought that she had sacrificed so much for me to have that opportunity, that the day of, the final performance and to get your diploma wasn't that big of a deal. But to me, it was. I just kind of felt like I was the only person there without parents there. And but I just wonder sometimes, like, am I missing something that will be big in my kid's mind later
And
on?
how do you feel about your mom now?
And of course, now it's all
one
perspective,
moment,
right?
yeah, that one moment doesn't make a
Because
difference.
when
does
you're
it?
a mom and the older you get, the more you kind of understand your mom and how much she did something as a single mom, which I have never experienced. And you think, gosh, what a small thing.
Well, and not only that, but your mother sounds so incredible that to know that she had one moment where maybe she wasn't the top 100% parent actually should make us all feel a little bit better, because none of us
Right.
are 100% the parent. And like we're trying the best we can to do the best we can, but sometimes we're going to fall short. So tell me a little bit about high school and some of the experiences you had there, and maybe some successes or some failures, or things that you termed were failures, or that experience.
Yeah. High school was, I was the only member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in my school, which was interesting. It wasn't as difficult for me as it was for my brother 9 years later. But it was as difficult as I knew. So I had good friends, and I had friends who made fun of me when I wasn't there, and I would hear about it later, and it cuts and hurts. And I didn't necessarily have like the support at home. My mom loved the missionaries when they came to teach us, and she chose not to um, join the church, accept that invitation for herself. But she loved them so much that she said that I was welcome to do as I pleased at the age of 8.
Wow.
Which is kind of amazing, and at the same time, like, what? So
Yeah.
you didn't, but you didn't care if I did. Like, I've had so many conversations with her about that, and I'm so grateful that she maybe was so young that she was like, sure, go ahead. If
Yeah.
if you want to take a bus and a trolley bus and another bus on Sundays on your own.
When you're 8.
When you were 8, which people in the city did that, and it was a lot.
Right.
But I am so grateful that she allowed me to have that choice at the age of 8 instead of stepping in and thinking that she knew better. In high school, it wasn't like she would say, stay strong, through your faith. She was just kind of like, whatever you believe.
Yeah.
You wanna go to church? If you don't want to go to church, great. I have a list of chores for you Sunday if you don't go to church. So it was almost like, maybe I'll just go.
So she did encourage you to go.
Maybe in her own way. Maybe so. But high school I had no sense of style. Like my mom, she loved clothes and makeup, and I didn't love, the styles of the time. I didn't love a lot of makeup. I had really big hair. So coming to the US later on and figuring out that someone had invented hair straighteners where I could actually run my fingers through my hair, that was like such an amazing discovery. So I was had big poofy curly hair that I could never manage. And I didn't like makeup. It seemed like all my friends were using makeup and had this sense of style I didn't. So I was kind of just someone who loved going to church, enjoyed learning English a lot. I loved English. I probably would have loved other languages, but my school taught English. Missionaries taught free English classes. And I loved going and doing that, and just loved going to seminary. I had an extraordinary seminary teacher, and that was really my life, taking care of my brother. That was fully my responsibility. And so with high school and the friends and the parties and the things that were happening a lot, I was an outsider. A lot of the time, but the
Do you think because of your faith?
because of my faith and the things I wouldn't do, but maybe I just wouldn't have been that popular anyway. I don't know, because you can't go a different path and see what it would have been like without the church. But I, I was, I think I was okay with that. Is just high school is a time of like you discover things about yourself, what you would love to do, what you think you're going to do for college. In Ukraine, you start thinking about college early on. And so I had this dream of going to BYU. I thought if I could just get good enough grades and get to BYU, it will be like a never ending youth conference to me. Like I just thought this would be amazing. So I kind of always worked towards that goal, knowing fully that my mom would not be able to fund anything but maybe the airplane ticket, if that.
Yeah.
So I had jobs. In high school, I taught English as a tutor.
Okay.
So I had quite a bit of money for a high school kid in Ukraine. I paid my own expenses. I never asked my mom for pocket money. I taught people who were trying to become flight attendants, but they were lacking English skills. They were like English teachers who had English degrees but couldn't speak because they had never talked to a native speaker.
Okay.
And because I learned English from the missionaries, I was able to teach them how to speak English correct, their practical English that wasn't really working or their written English that wasn't working in practice as they tried to speak. And so that was really a self-building moment for me to be navigating through these English classes I was teaching. I was teaching kids who were trying to get into linguistic colleges.
Okay.
And then I was teaching a couple of people who were trying to become flight attendants. So I had a lot of...
Wow. So like totally fulfilling your mom's dream of you translating for people.
Yeah. Well, but teaching. I really enjoyed teaching. The teaching component, I understood how English worked, like in my mind, and I had my own curriculum I had designed, and I would teach according to it.
Wow.
And I really loved it. I don't know. That was fun.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
But you did have some high school experiences where people were not very kind to you, and you were a little bit on the margins.
Yes, I think, there was one experience that came to mind the other day when I was thinking about high school and like the difficult experiences. And that was of my history class. One of my favorite teachers was my history teacher in high school. She was beautiful and well-spoken, and she taught history with passion, and she was firm about learning from history and just drawing important lessons. I loved her so much. She served in the community on city council, and I just thought she was an amazing woman. But this day she had this lesson where she was looking back at the previous 5 years of the Soviet Union collapsing and Ukraine gaining its independence, and all the pros and cons. The pros of getting a freedom of speech and getting so many freedoms available to us, borders opening, us people being able to travel and import, export, the trade. But then I was surprised that on the list of cons, she added the freedom of religion. And because she was someone I respected so much.
Yeah.
And she talked about how with the collapse of the Soviet Union, doors were open now to all these religious groups who were constantly coming into Ukraine and teaching people new doctrines. And then she asked the classroom, she turned to the classroom and said, have you guys had any experience with missionaries from different religious groups being aggressive in their preaching and, to you and your families. And if anyone would love to share. And I felt like I could already hear the giggles and some people whispering, oh, we have the Mormon cult representative right here among us. And I had some boys who were unkind who were whispering that. And then and she was saying, what are you whispering? I want to hear it. Speak out loud. So someone said, well, we have someone from the Mormon sect in our class. Maybe she would share. You should ask her. And they pointed at me and she was surprised kind of. And she was like, oh, well, Svitlana, why don't you come to the front of the classroom and share how you got into the sect and what do they teach and how aggressive were they in their invitation for you to start going? And
Interesting.
But I remember my desk was in the back and just even walking to the front of the classroom and just having this invitation extended so last minute, I felt so exposed and just so
and you couldn't really
stressed.
think
And
through
I couldn't
what you were
think
going to
like,
say.
what am I going to say? I wanted to say something to my teacher that would show her that maybe I disagreed with her.
Or I'm not one of these crazy people.
Yes, I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
And, freedom of religion is a good thing, I think. But you couldn't speak so freely at the time. We were only just a few years from...
Well, and you were probably like 16.
And I was probably 14 or 15 at the time. And so I remember making my way to the front of the classroom. And I literally think that I was so stressed in that moment that my mind blocked what I said that day. I remember saying that the church taught me that families can live together forever beyond the grave. And that gave me hope because I loved my grandma so much. And I think I said that we have the prophet and 12 apostles, the way the church was organized during the time of Jesus Christ. I was trying to say things that maybe my classmates would think are reasonable and neutral, but also something my teacher would appreciate. But I can't remember all that I said. I remember being totally interrupted when the bell rang and people just grabbed their stuff and ran out.
Yeah.
And I was making my way back to the back desk and just thinking, what just happened?
And nobody came up and gave you...
Nobody,
said,
no.
That was really brave of you.
It was the last class of the day, so people just kind of ran out and went home. There was no interaction.
Have you had a chance to talk to that young Svitlana and say, good for you, way to stand up and just say it even though it was super hard? Like,
it was the moment. Somehow it was a defining moment for me. The fact that I did it. I got up and went to the front of the room. I could have dismissed it or said something that was more comfortable in the moment, but I think somehow it didn't weaken my faith in any way being laughed at in that way, or even the comments from my teacher who I respected so much.
Yeah.
But I think in the end, somehow it reaffirmed and shaped my faith in the way that it affected the way I still believe today. You have to stand up for what you believe. You have to do it when it's uncomfortable. Most of the time, things get uncomfortable. Like odds are when you are in the minority, it's going to get uncomfortable, but you can't be quiet. And I remember feeling so down, like that I failed to share how much joy the church brings me. Like I just walked home that day thinking, how could I have done that better? And I still, to this day, I sometimes think back to that moment thinking, how could I have done it better? But sometimes there's not going to be a beautiful situation out of like circumstances that are created. You just have to get up and do the right thing. And
and nothing that you said was wrong, and it wasn't bad, and it actually probably increased their understanding a little bit more, and that's all you needed to do. You don't have to go back and think about what you could have
think about that moment a lot.
But it is defining. It's
on my dying
defining.
bed, I will still think it curved something on my heart. But that time in high school was the time that I gained a testimony and developed a really special relationship with the Savior. And I still fall back on that today. Like as a mom, you have hard times. In college, you have hard times. But there's these few years in high school when you have special people like your seminary teachers, your youth leaders and where it's you and the Savior and you learn and develop something. And the Savior has stayed with me through all these years.
And
it's been
there's,
so many years.
you may have, think, oh, I wasn't able to convert my teacher, or any class members or whatever in that time, but you did something so much more important because you converted yourself. That
I
was
agree.
so much more important than, whatever you said that they probably totally forgot as soon as they stepped up and walked out the door. That didn't matter at all, because what really mattered was that you were able to say it and what's come from that.
I think you're right. I think, no one may have converted that day, but something happened in my heart inside of me.
Yeah, so you can be really proud of that.
I think that's why I will never forget that experience.
Yeah. Oh, it's beautiful.
We're about halfway through this episode of the Sendy Mom podcast. It has been a thrill for me to be involved in the 2026 Podcasthon, uniting thousands of podcasters over the world in bringing awareness to charities that they choose. I've interviewed several people who are working to make a better world and doing good wherever they are. Please find all of my interviews about charities at the link in the show notes. Our mission at Sendy Mom is to build, lift, encourage, persuade, and inspire women to feel empowered in their lives. If you like hearing positive and inspiring stories, please help me bring these positive messages to the world and rate, review, and share this episode. If you like listening about how people are horrible to each other, you won't find it here. You can find Sendy Mom on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and online at sendymom.com. The next episode of Sendy Mom will be a conversation with Talisha Landon. I actually found her while I was looking for mountain mamas on Instagram. I just started looking her pictures and I thought, she is just my type of Sendy Mom. She brings her kids on adventures with her outside and she is an expert in parenting. So I'm excited to talk to her about how she intentionally raises her children in nature. Our next tea party will be on Friday, March 27th at 10 a.m. These are always a great way to chat with other Sendy women. Let me know if you need my address by emailing me at becky@sendymom.com. You can find dates and times of all the Sendy Mom tea parties and other events online at sendymom.com. Please bring a Sendy friend. To receive an update every time a new episode is added and for special bonus content, you can subscribe at sendymom.com totally free. Okay, also, I am practicing to be a life coach. I am genuinely interested in helping people live a more fulfilling life and discover what they truly want. I have been studying with Jody Moore in her Better Than Happy Life Coach School. I want a lot of practice, so I am offering 100 free life coaching calls. There are only about 80 spots left. If you are interested in a free coaching call, please find my calendar attached to the show notes or online at sendymom.com. I can coach on all sorts of things right now. It is causal coaching, which means we work on the thought that is causing your pain and guiding you to something more useful. Sign up for a time that works for you. I coach in person or on Zoom. Enjoy the rest of my conversation with Svitlana. Isn't she an amazing Sendy mom?
Okay, so how did you get to America then and all of that?
So that was also interesting. There was a missionary who was teaching my English class whose parents came to pick him up from his mission, and they arrived early, like a few days early, because that was the cheaper flight.
Okay.
And so he knew I was studying English, and he called me and he said, "Would you show my parents around the city?" It was during Christmas break for me. And I said, "Sure." He said, "I can't be with them for several days, but if you could take them around wherever, doesn't matter where, until I'm ready to start spending time with them." So I did. I spent several days just showing them. There's so many beautiful sites. Kyiv, you could spend weeks just showing people around.
Sure.
And so, but towards the end of their visit, they said, "Gosh, your English is great. If you ever decide to come to BYU, you can stay with us, and we would love to have you." And so that was just so encouraging to hear someone believe in the fact that I could someday come to BYU. It was such a far-fetched dream. And I had never met anybody from Ukraine who went to BYU. So
Wow.
to have a human being say that, it just kind of gave me, I set this goal. Okay, I'm going to go to BYU. Maybe for the first little bit, I will stay with these people. So we stayed in touch through email. And when I graduated high school, they said the offer still stands. You can come and stay with us. And if you're accepted. And so I did. They actually offered to pay for my first semester at school. I didn't get a scholarship. International students don't qualify for scholarships
Okay.
at church schools. You have to come and do well for first full year, and then you qualify for a scholarship. So,
Okay.
but they gave me that opportunity.
Wow.
So I came and I loved studying English, creative writing. I loved to write. I loved to write in high school. Writing was my favorite class, and coming to BYU, and it took it to the next level.
That's incredible.
So
Wow. Yeah. And then how did you meet your husband?
And so that was interesting. My senior year, I helped my brother come to be an exchange student. He was just 13 years old. And he was living in Kaysville. And I came to spend time with him on Christmas. And I was like, wow, right here in Kaysville, there was a missionary who served in Ukraine who taught my English class between I was 13 and 15, for those 2 years, off and on, he taught my English classes. And I remembered that his house was right there in Kaysville. This is pre-social media where you couldn't just easily connect with people.
Right.
And so as we were driving around, my brother wanted to go drive around. He loves going to McDonald's. He loved going to McDonald's and have me drive him around so we could talk. So we were doing that. And I said, I'm pretty sure my old friend whom last I saw at his wedding when he got married, I'm pretty sure his house is right there. Let's stop by. And looking back, who does that? Who on Christmas Day stops by at someone's house? What a horrible thing to do to someone.
Yeah.
But I had heard that he went to flight school with his wife and that they had a baby through mutual friends. And I didn't even think he's probably not going to be there. He lives in another state. He already graduated. He was older than me. But I knocked on the door and his brother opened the door and I said, is Chris Miller here by chance? And he's like, yeah, he is. Let me go get him. So he got his brother and I stepped into the house and I saw the family, the brothers and their wives. And there's it was a little strange. And I was like, why am I here on someone's Christmas? That was just, I was like, I really didn't think this through.
That is pretty gutsy. That's pretty Sendy.
That was, and so this sounded like a good idea. But when I realized it's not just my friend, it's his whole family.
Yeah.
What am I doing? And he's married. That's probably weird. I didn't think that through at all. But he came up and just was like, hey, oh my gosh, so good to see you. I was like, well, my brother's an exchange student, literally 2 blocks away from you. And he was like, what? Let me go see him. Little Max. I was like, because my brother, I used to take care of him. So I'd bring him to English classes because he was in my care. So
yeah, right.
He was like, wow, Max is 13 now. But the craziest thing is I learned this when my husband and I got engaged. He's the one who opened the door, right?
Okay.
When I knocked on the door.
Say. Wait, he was married, had a kid. Okay.
No, so
it was
his brother.
His brother. Got it.
His brother was there, married with a baby and visiting his home. He had a couple of single brothers. He had the brother on the mission, my husband, and a married brother with a wife. But
okay.
What was interesting was when we were engaged, my father-in-law shared this with me that my husband never shared. He had just broken up with someone after dating this girl for 2 years, my husband.
Really?
And his dad was saying, Darren, who you should really look up? Your brother Chris had this fun friend in college from Ukraine, and she came and visited our house a couple times. I think you would really hit it off with her. You should look her up.
No way. Wow.
And that was that Christmas morning. And so his dad said, Chris, do you stay in touch with, Svitlana?
Uh-huh.
And Chris said, no, not since, I got married and left, but we should look her up. So they got on Route Y to try to look me up, but he couldn't remember how to spell my name. So they tried a couple of different
Uh-huh.
versions. Things were harder then, right? Without
Yeah.
social media. How do you look someone up?
Yeah.
And they couldn't look me up. He
Uh-huh.
couldn't think of how to spell my name right.
Uh-huh.
And then I knocked on the door.
That's incredible. What a miracle.
That's pretty insane.
Wow. I know that doesn't happen. So then you didn't even know until you were engaged that this
Yes,
all
but
transpired.
I do remember walking in through that door and just feeling so awkward. Like people were staring at me, like
Yeah.
my friend's brothers and his wife. And I mean, his mom was so kind. She was like, welcome. But it was just like this off feeling. That's when I was like, gosh, I shouldn't have come on the Christmas.
Okay. But they were probably all
But
thinking,
they were just
oh my
like,
gosh,
what
this
are
is-
the odds of this?
Yeah, exactly.
Like I hadn't seen his brother in several years.
That's incredible. Wow. Okay, so let's move forward. Let's kind of go on to how you started to from Ukraine to Ukraine with love. Sorry. Mm-hmm.
So the war broke out. Do you know when?
Yeah, wasn't it
4 years ago.
today?
February 24th,
Oh my goodness.
2022.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I remember I had been watching the news. The whole world had been watching the news of Russian troops lighting up at the border. And I remember going to Cancun on my anniversary and just watching in Mexico. That's all they were showing on TV. That was even breaking news in Mexico. And I remember my husband always saying, no way will there ever be anything. Putin is not that gutsy.
Yeah.
He's never going to, start a war with an independent country. The world would never allow it. And my husband is this really smart guy. And he had been at this point in the military for 20 plus years. And so I always just kind of thought, okay, I just got to trust Darren because he knows what he's talking about. I don't understand, geopolitical situation in the world like he does. And I will, I took comfort in that. But I do remember February 23rd at around 9 p.m. So it was 6 a.m. in Ukraine.
Okay.
And I remember just picking up the toys in our living room. My daughter is practicing piano, and Darren's on the couch looking through his phone. And I remember he looked at me, and just his look alone, I knew something happened. I knew it. And I rushed, grabbed the phone, and I saw missiles on the news showing missiles over every major city in Ukraine. That in the 21st century, in the center of Europe, there was this full-scale war. War was back to Europe. That was the story on the news on every channel. And I just remember my heart just sank. And I was like, what are we going to do? I'm going to call my grandma first thing. So I dialed the phone, and it kept ringing and ringing, and she wasn't answering. And finally she picked up, and I was like, Grandma, are you okay? And she said, yes, I'm just waking up. What's going on? And I said, war is happening in Ukraine. And she said, are you sure? Hold on. And then I remember she walked over, we were on FaceTime, and she walked over to her window, and she said, I see it. I see things flying in the sky. I can't believe war is in our land. So that was the day I remember I learned that war is happening in Ukraine. The internet was staying strong. I could FaceTime with all my cousins, with my grandma, just through the missiles dropping, through the sudden crisis. And around this time, Darren was actually leaving.
Did they have a safe place to go? Did they have bomb shelters or
Yes,
anywhere?
everybody rushed into the nearest subway stations in the city.
Okay.
Our family's in the city. I later learned what happened to the hopelessness that was taking place in the villages surrounding cities that didn't have bomb
Anywhere to
shelters
go.
or subways,
Yeah.
metro stations to hide in. They didn't have anywhere to go.
Wow.
They sat there praying.
Yeah. Wow. Can imagine.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're seeing all of this happening in your country. You're talking to cousins. What were some of the immediate needs that you saw from that?
So people quickly ran out of the most basic things like baby formula, diapers, um, things like insulin, basic Tylenol, first aid kits. There was nothing you could get in the stores. Shelves were clean,
Mm-hmm.
roads were um, destroyed. A lot of the roads, there wasn't any way to get into the city.
Okay.
Like the government strategically bombed bridges that led into the city to stop the Russian tanks from entering the city. But that stopped also everything else from going into the city. So stores are clear. There's no way to get food. There's no way to get basic medications. And I just remember the first thing that I was doing. I remember friends from Ukraine living in the US sending these lists that you could sign, like requesting the US to, as part of NATO, to intervene and help Ukrainian people. And it was like, let's get 100,000 signatures. Let's get 1 million signatures asking NATO to step in, because Ukraine's not a part of NATO, but we're right there on the border with Poland, with NATO countries. And so I remember, kind of just telling everybody, pray for Ukraine, pray for NATO to step in and help us get these signatures on. If you believe, NATO should intervene and help our people. And at the same time, my husband's packing up because he's got a deployment
that was already planned.
That was already planned. We knew it was on the calendar for a year. And I remember he's packing his stuff, and all of a sudden they're showing how the first Russian missile dropped basically in Poland, right on the border. And so on every channel you see them speculating, like, is this what's going to take to activate Article 5 and to get NATO involved in this conflict?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, what does this mean to me? Darren is packing his bags to literally, they're going to go fly NATO missions.
Yeah.
And so I remember going into our room, he's literally packing. And I remember saying, Darren, are you going to come back when you're scheduled to come back? What's on my calendar?
Yeah.
Your return date? Or is there any way that you're going to remain because NATO is going to be activated and you're going to be pulled into this conflict, going to go to Ukraine and fight Russia? Is that? And I remember him looking at me and saying, well, I thought that's what you're praying about. I've literally heard you in our family circle, and you're passing around all these emails with signatures. What is that about? And I said, well, I want NATO to, of course, help Ukraine. And he said, but what's the problem then? If this is a NATO mission and we were redirected. And I said, well, I want you to come home, but of course I want help for Ukraine.
Yeah.
And he said, so you got to be really careful not to talk like a hypocrite. You want other lives to be endangered. Your husband needs to be home safely, but you still need that help for Ukraine as long as somebody else makes the sacrifice. And I just remember being kind of mad.
Yeah.
Like, thinking, no, I don't think I'm a hypocrite, but yes, I want you home, which I guess does make me a hypocrite, but I need to reconcile that. I see it, but I want you to come home. And he said, you can't have both.
Yeah. Oh, that must have been so hard, Svitlana, when you because it becomes very personal in so many ways, because you've got your family over there that you're worried about, and your people, that you love, because you still are patriotic towards your country and everything. But then to have your husband be so intimately involved, and you don't know if he's going to be able to come back, but you have to sacrifice, that part of you. So he ended up going.
He flew his mission. He returned. NATO, as you know, has never intervened in the conflict.
Yeah.
Not in the past 4 years. But it was a teaching moment for me, and kind of that defining moment for me to stop and ask myself, like, what am I willing to do to help the people?
Yeah.
Am I really praying for someone else to step in and help, or am I willing to do more?
Yeah.
You know?
And that takes some courage too, to actually do something about it, which you did. I mean, you suddenly had people, or you figured out you could take some supplies to people.
That's right. Even with that plane that was leaving, I said, Darren, will you ask at work, will you ask in your Air Force unit if we would be allowed to put some things on the plane? We can't ship things, but you're going to, because the sky's closed,
Mm-hmm.
you know, all of a sudden you couldn't ship anything to Ukraine, but
Yeah.
you could go by sea, or you could ship to Europe and figure it out from there.
Mm-hmm.
And so he asked, and miraculously he got the green light to fill that plane with whatever we could fill. That green light came less than 24 hours from the time that the plane was leaving.
Wow.
And so I was like, what are we going to do in 24 hours? That's silly. You can't really do something impactful in 24 hours.
Yeah.
So I thought, you know, if we could get even one drone, that they were using drones to look for people in the destroyed buildings to see movement and pull out people. And so these drones, they were like $2,200 a piece.
Okay.
I thought if we could just maybe fundraise to get one drone and to get some medical supplies, the much needed medical supplies, first aid kits, you know, also baby formula, diapers, something that was like worth as much as gold. There's just none in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And so I posted my first post ever on Facebook, a public post that just could be seen by anyone. And I said, a plane is leaving. Before a plane leaves, you never talk about the schedules or anything like that. Right. So that was also something like, you can't tell anyone what kind of a plane it is, when it's leaving, anything like that. So I wrote, a plane is leaving. Yeah. And it's going to take aid for Ukraine. Here's the items that we know are needed today. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so I was blown away. I remember just moments after posting that, a neighbor showing up, giving a generous amount. And I was like, I can't take this money. She's like, yeah, you can. It's not for you. It's for you people in Ukraine. Take the money. And then just within a few hours, trucks were pulling up. There was a line of cars from the local hospital just unloading boxes. And I had never imagined that kind of willingness on people's part in our community to do something so last minute. You know, it was a Saturday night. They were leaving Sunday. People had plans that Saturday, but they came and they filled my house with boxes. Between Idaho and Utah, you couldn't find a single Best Buy that had any more drones in stock.
Is that
People
right?
bought all that there was.
Goodness.
That was incredible. People donated, and then when they didn't have any more money to give, they called their brothers and their parents, and they said, this is the one chance to fill this plane that's leaving. Yeah. The shipment is free of cost. We just need to fill the plane.
Wow.
It was amazing.
That's
and
incredible.
I remember driving to the base to load that plane in the morning and talking. I remember recording a video through Marco Polo, that was the thing back then, to my college roommate who helped me gather stuff. She gathered so much as well in her community. And she served her mission in Ukraine, and she was like, let's do this. So it wasn't just me. My mom was gathering stuff from her community, my college roommate from hers.
Well, it builds it.
People just, you know, were calling, okay, where else can we go? Walmart is out of stuff. We bought all we have. Home Depot is out. Best Buy is like, what else? Where else can we buy in 24 hours?
It's incredible.
But I remember recording this Marco Polo and saying, well, at least I have done my part for Ukraine. I still have it.
You thought it was done.
I said, you know, at least, because I thought there's not going to be another opportunity to ship stuff free of charge. Right. So I said, at least I can look back to this and I can know that we took this 24-hour period and we did all that we could.
Did everything we could. And then what happened?
And then miracles happened after we loaded that plane and my husband left. People continued to Venmo because that initial Facebook post had said, you know, if you can't go and buy stuff, you can Venmo me and then I will go and buy stuff.
Yeah.
And so by the time the plane landed in Germany,
Okay.
$60,000 in my account.
Wow.
And I was like, I think I need to start sending this back because there's nothing I can do. We can't ship, we can't. But I called my husband and I remember him saying, I can buy stuff here. There's a store with all the similar things right here in Germany. And my commander is saying he's going to go with me.
Wow.
He's going to help me rent this giant truck and get stuff loaded. And because he was on NATO orders, my husband couldn't cross into Ukraine.
Yeah.
But on the day that he had off, the scheduled day off, he drove that truck. He fundraised more from the U.S. base. People added so much more.
Wow.
And he and his commander went and shopped and filled that truck. And on his day off, Darren met my friends from Ukraine who had trucks of their own.
Wow.
They met and they moved all the aid into the trucks. And so within a week, I remember having pictures of that aid being distributed.
Yeah.
I remember posting
and
it.
it's only grown from there. So tell me what you're doing right now. I mean, because the war isn't over and it just keeps dragging on. That's the real thing. We just want it to be done. We want it to be over and for people to have their freedom, to be able to be free. But what are you doing to try to help people now who are going through so much?
It's evolved so much. I remember my first trips to war-torn Ukraine with my husband. He had over a month of leave saved at work, and he used it all up to travel to Ukraine with me. And you couldn't fly into Ukraine anymore, so we would buy vans to evacuate people. You couldn't get a van in Ukraine, so we would buy them in Germany or Holland, and we would bring them into Ukraine so that groups who were evacuating people would continue to do that using these cars. There were so many war-torn villages that some of them turned into a war zone, and nobody would go and rescue people. So we would bring these cars, we would bring aid into Ukraine. Soon after probably after 6 weeks, it became easier to buy supplies in Ukraine. Supply chains stabilized, stores restored their functions. You could go and buy pharmaceutical supplies. You could buy needed items. What people didn't have was money. Many jobs closed.
Yeah, that makes
factories
sense.
closed. But if you could send money, then immediately things could be purchased and delivered, same day, same few days. You didn't have to wait. So that became easier. So we would bring cars with some of the supplies that weren't available in Ukraine, and we would leave them there. But we would drive through these small villages and see people, talk to people who would be there just clearing their lots after airstrikes, when their homes were destroyed, when their streets were destroyed. And I saw this incredible thing of Red Cross, UNICEF, all these global world organizations in Ukraine helping with what they could do to help at the time. I'm not sure how big organizations work when first conflicts break out in countries, but I saw giant warehouses of clothes where people could go and for free they could get clothes to wear, or they could get, items when it was still cold, pots and pans or different blankets, stuff like that. But I would talk to people on these destroyed streets who would show me, mattresses they got for free when they didn't have a house to put them in. I saw this woman showed me a box of beautiful dresses she got from some organization in Germany. And she said, I literally have them on my lot next to my destroyed house. I don't have a closet to hang them in, but they are right here. I commented on her beautiful dress. She said, I have these beautiful dresses that were donated, but I lost literally everything else. I have nothing left.
Yeah.
But I saw that the true need was housing, but no one was willing to resolve that problem. Some organizations were they're still in conflict.
Yeah.
It's premature to start helping with housing.
Yeah.
And then some organizations were well, housing is a lot.
Costs a
It
lot.
costs a lot. Like
Yeah.
to help one family with a home, you can literally buy containers of clothes
Right.
or ship them for free,
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so I saw the struggle. And even for me, I was like, Darren, these people aren't getting what they need, but
Yeah.
we can't help them either. I
Right.
remember coming home and showing pictures of destroyed homes, of seniors, of families with children clearing their lots brick by brick,
Mm-hmm.
not having a place to live, living out of their cars, living out of their tents.
Yeah.
And I remember my son, who was 13 at the time, he was saying, Mom, um, why don't I fundraise for a family who lost a home? This family right here, a family with 3 kids and a little dog. He kind of felt like our family has 3 kids. There's a family with 3 kids left with no home. And I was like, yeah, Chase, that's really expensive. Even some of these modular houses that are quick to build on the
Mm-hmm.
spot where they can be placed on people's lots, hooked up to their existing utilities. Even that's like $25,000-$30,000.
Yeah.
So I was like, Chase, you can't. That's a lot of money. And in addition to that, you can't really solve that problem because there are hundreds of thousands of houses at this point that have been destroyed. We can't really
We
fix
can't
the
do it for
problem.
everyone.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I remember him saying, well, yeah, we can't do it for everyone, but can we just help this one family right here
Oh,
with
and
3 kids and a dog?
that's Mother Teresa right
Yeah.
there.
And
One at
I
a
was just
time.
like, well, if you want to, the summer's starting and I'm thinking less screen time,
Yep.
more, it doesn't cost me anything, this effort. And I was like,
Yeah.
Chase, if you do this, you can come with me and Dad. He had been asking to go with us and see Ukraine.
Yeah.
I said, we will bring you and you can give the keys to the family yourself. And
Mm.
after the conversation, I remember my husband saying, like, we need to set the kind of goals our kids can
Can actually achieve.
actually achieve to make them feel. He's like, maybe $5,000. That would
Yeah.
be, and then maybe your charity could, like, make up for the rest because,
Mm-hmm.
he's not going to be able to do it essentially. And I was like, well, let's just see so we went back and we said, if you could do even 5,000, we will take you there if we can help fundraise for the rest. But as he
Mm-hmm.
started fundraising, he printed out a picture. He would knock doors, show a picture of a family and say, I'm trying to help them
Mm-hmm.
get into a home before the winter starts. And I was amazed at how the community responded. Neighbors started giving money. He had 3 friends who joined him who said, we want
Wow.
to help you, knock doors. They would set up tables in front of a grocery store and just
Yeah.
show a picture of his family and say, would you like to help us fundraise for a house for this family? So these 4 boys, my son and 3 more boys, we said if they could each do 5,000, we would take all of them to Ukraine to give keys
Yeah.
to this family. Well, at the end of the summer, they fundraised $60,000, enough to help one family with 3
Wow.
kids and 2 more smaller families, single mom with a son and an elderly lady, all in the same town.
Wow.
And so we brought them and they each gave keys to
Well, and
these
not only
families.
are you providing homes to these families, but it's also work for the people over there to be able to build the homes and everything too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. For sure.
And it's this personal connection that your family now has with this other family.
It's a
And
connection forever. When you
yeah.
help someone get into a home after their home was destroyed, after they lost everything. But
Mhm.
it was a pretty amazing experience for these boys. I remember the first house we gave, out of nowhere, the news showed up. No organization was helping at the time with housing.
Hmm.
We were there. The families had not walked through the house yet. It was going to be a surprise. That's the way our team prepared it in
Uh-huh.
Ukraine,
Yeah.
the charity team. And I remember just out of nowhere, this van pulls up with all these cameras on these boys, and they got scared. I remember my son just kind of
Uh-huh.
leaning into me and my husband like we'd never seen anything like that. And they're asking these boys, like, why did you decide to help these families? How long did it take you to raise money in your community? And, all these questions. And the boys were they weren't prepared for it. They answered as best as they could.
Yeah.
these reporters speaking English with an accent, and
Hard to
the boys were trying to understand what they were asking. But at night, we got to our hotel room, and uh, we I was blown away that we were flipping through news channels, and they were showing us on so many different channels this interview. And I was thinking, that's what they said, what happened. These reporters, they said, you're going to be on the news at,
Wow.
at 8 o'clock tonight. But I was telling my husband, I remember, like, why wouldn't they be on the news? Like, Ukraine is reporting such important news, like on the front lines. How many, towns are newly, in the war zone, how people are fighting for their lives, how many people are lost their homes, and what towns, and these few little houses. Like, I just thought, is it really newsworthy when we can't really help the main population? This is just a couple of families in one of the towns of so many towns that got pillaged by the first months of the war. But I remember the headline at the bottom of these interviews. I'll never forget it. It said, 4 American teens give 3 homes to 3 families in a destroyed village and give hope to the rest of Ukraine. And I thought,
because somebody cared.
well, somebody cared enough to show the people that they're not left alone in this fight.
Yeah.
That there are small communities in small towns in the United States fully supporting our people, standing behind them. And so that was a big moment, even for me, to understand that aid is not just what you are specifically giving to the family in need, to an individual in need. When you give hope to a community of people, hope, it goes a long way in the war.
Absolutely. Yeah. And these people can, if they have that hope, then it gives them the energy to be able to finish some of these things that they're fighting for, and gives them some motivation to continue the fight so that they can, have joy. Because that's what we're all looking for. So,
and the most amazing thing happened after these boys came back. There were some news channels that wanted to interview them locally. They got in those interviews, and then amazing people stepped up. Neighborhoods, book clubs, bowling leagues, people who were like, do you have more vetted families? So we just started vetting families, adding them to the website, and inviting anyone to take a look, read the family's bio, what happened to them, how they lost their home overnight, and then see if they would want to crowdfund for that family. And so within the next 4 months, we had 30 houses that were given to 30 families. And then something amazing happened. People who were in construction business and real estate businesses started reaching out to say that they wanted to help. We had some, people with big names who reached out and offered, a commitment of 300 houses, 400 houses. We had someone who said, wow, I love what you're doing. I would love to help you build a community for displaced people. Can you do that? And so we were like, yeah, we can do it, which is scary.
Yeah.
The first time I said yes, I was like, well, yes. I mean, I don't know, but yes, we can figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
There are people, thousands of people left without homes. We can figure out how to build a community. And we did.
Yeah.
We built several communities for people whose towns are an active war zone today, but they needed a place to stay.
Yeah, people need somewhere to live.
People need somewhere to live.
Even if it gets destroyed again, you just have to keep building.
Today, we can't tell people, we will help you when the war is over.
No.
People need to live
now.
today. They need to survive this war today.
Well, and I love that you've got some beautiful homes for elderly people, because I imagine there's a lot of elderly people that they can't leave. They can't, that this is their home and this is where they need to be. And so, so there's a lot of projects on your website that people can kind of look at. And I love the interaction that people are able to have with the people in the country to be able to know exactly who you are helping. That's one thing that sets you apart from a lot of different organizations. And I think it's a beautiful way to serve. So,
do you know why I decided to register a charity? Like that's never crossed my mind in a million years. Even
Yeah.
after that first airlift, when we used that plane, it never crossed my mind that I should probably register an official charity.
Yeah.
But I remember going to a baptism of a friend and receiving text messages before the baptism started. I have this first package, that aid, the big trucks that were delivered to Ukraine. And I was flipping through them really fast, just to myself looking. And the woman that was sitting next to me, she said, "What are you looking at?" And I said, "Oh my gosh, this aid was just delivered to Ukraine that I just kind of helped facilitate." So I was just quickly looking. And she said, "Do you have a way of getting aid into Ukraine?" And I said, "Yes, I do. I have friends with trucks and yes, I do. I know the needs." And she said, "Well, we have a family foundation and do you have a registered charity? Because if you do, we could probably give you, I mean, not a lot, but like $100,000. And I was like, "What?" And I said, "I can." Yes. She said, if you do that, shoot me your info and we'll get it figured out." So
Wow.
I got home from that baptism and I texted my friend who supports charities. He's a tax attorney. And I said, "Mike, can you help? Because I think there could be this huge chunk of aid for
Yeah.
Ukraine if I have a registered entity." And he said, "Absolutely. Let me do this." So he said, "What name did you have in mind?" And I was like, "Oh, I have no idea. Like, we were just packaging boxes with so much love, maybe to Ukraine with love." That's what. And he's like, "Yeah, that sounds good. Okay." So we registered the charity, and I reached out back to this woman and I said, "I have a registered charity. Here's the EIN. Here's
Yeah.
everything else. Would you like to talk about what's needed on the ground right now?" And she said, "We actually, our foundation found some contacts there in Ukraine and we already sent the aid." So,
Oh,
and I said, "Okay, well,
great.
thank you for what you did.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And thank you." But just a couple of days later, someone called me and said, "Do you have a charity?" Because my friends and I are vetting a Ukrainian charity to send some serious aid to, and we want to organize a fundraiser, and we need an organized organization with people on the ground. And I said, "Yes, I do."
Because you had done all of that
Because I had
groundwork.
done that.
Well,
And
which is like uncalled of because it happened like within a week,
it
which
happened
does not
really
happen.
fast. It
Usually
happened really
takes
fast. That
a
was
year
miraculous
or
as
more.
well. That's
Yeah.
right. But the thing is, and this is something that I've learned with doing this work, there are so many disappointments when people will say, "I can probably help you. Give me a call," or "There's this event. Why don't you show up at this event and I'll make some introductions." And you show up and the people you were hoping to meet are not there. And you're thinking, "Man, I literally flew across the country to meet this person who is not there."
Yeah.
But then you sit at the table and you meet someone so amazing and you know why you were there.
Yep.
And you know why you prepared that charity and you know why you went to that meeting. And so we have had more help come through windows closing and doors closing than through anything else.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And that's a really good thing. I'm glad you brought that up because I think that if you keep yourself open, then
Yes.
things and if you're going in the right direction, things will happen. And you just have to believe that the universe is conspiring in your favor, that God has your back. That,
Absolutely.
he wants, we all want to see people succeed and it's going to come from one way or another. So you just make yourself open to it. Thank you for all that you're doing. Oh my goodness. Like I could just talk to you for like another 3 hours about all this stuff, but we probably need to kind of wrap it up. So I do have some rapid fire questions that I usually try to ask all of my guests. And so the first one is, what has brought you joy in the last 24 hours?
In the last 24 hours, I think playing a board game with my kids. A new board game my son got for his birthday. Just simple. We love board games in my home.
Yeah, well, they kind of. I think board games help things not to be so serious,
Yes.
like or any kind of games or like sports can do that too. Just where you can get out of your mind for a little bit. So I think that's
Yes.
beautiful. I played a board game with my grandchildren this morning, and it was kind
Oh,
of nice. That was fun too.
I
So
could play board games all day. We love that. We love games as a family. So,
that's awesome. Okay, what about a good book that you've read recently?
The Hiding Place.
Oh,
Have
Corey
you read that
Ten
book?
Yes,
Yes.
love it.
Love it. And the power and the difference one person can make,
Yeah,
like any age, anytime, anywhere, you
I
can make a
know.
difference.
I did a short little spotlight on her in Kim Jonas's episode. She was like episode number 5 or something like that.
Okay.
So one of my very first ones. It's kind of like a
Awesome.
little blurb in the middle of it. But yes, love that. She's an amazing woman and believing, faithful, and all
Yes.
that
And
too.
just so ordinary.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
just, I think extraordinary impact happens with just ordinary people waking up and saying, "Hey, I think I'm going to do something for someone else."
Yeah. And you just take that first step. You don't have to know the end. Like when you started, to Ukraine with love, it wasn't like, like you said, like, okay, I've done my part. I did what I needed to do. You couldn't have envisioned, what it would grow to. And you don't know what it's going to grow to in the future either. Hopefully
Right.
it'll shut down at some point. Hopefully you can shut the doors, or move them to
Or maybe
another
the need
place.
won't be there anymore. I would love
Exactly.
that so much. But
Right. All right. I got a couple more for you. So, what about a good documentary or TV show that you like to watch?
a documentary, I love World War II documentaries. I always have. I
Uh-huh.
love World War II poetry. It
Uh-huh.
was something my mom loved. And so anything about World War II and lessons drawn from that, especially in my work today, it's
Mm-hmm.
fascinating
There's
for me.
actually a documentary that I watched not too long ago called Turning Point, and they
Turning
have
point.
several different ones about different, times in history. It's kind of a historical one, but this one was all about the Cold War and about Russia,
Okay.
Ukraine, and everything. So it was really fascinating because now they can tell a little bit more about, looking back, like how everything led up to where it is, and it talks a lot about Putin and where he was from and how he rose to power and the oligarchs and all of that stuff. So I think it's really fascinating. So anyway,
Yeah.
I just thought I'd mention that one. Okay, so what about a
Amazing.
charity that you support? I mean, obviously, to Ukraine with love.
Obviously, that's 24/7 support right there. But so many amazing charities and people doing good things. I love Faith Matters and what they do and what they bring to me and my soul. I love a charity that my um, roommate from college started. It's called the Rising Phoenix, and it's a charity that helps children who have a hard time learning in the traditional way.
Hmm.
It's a charity that helps tutor kids whose parents can't afford to pay for private tutors to help their kids
Okay.
learn. And so I support that charity. I love it with my whole heart. My daughter benefited from amazing individuals who had faith in her and had the ability to help in a way that I could have never helped her.
Yeah,
And
I love
so
that.
Rising Phoenix.
Raising Phoenix. Sorry. Okay, what about a favorite vacation spot?
Well, so we invested in a timeshare as a very young family, and we in Hawaii, and we just have always gone to Hawaii for spring break,
Oh,
and we love it.
it's a
I think
beautiful
it's a
place.
beautiful place, but also it's tradition now.
Yeah,
Favorite spots for ice cream and
yeah.
shaved ice and just different things.
Yeah.
So
Traditions are really nice. It gives you some stability and like some good memories too, and you can just build on it. So that's
right,
awesome. I love it. Okay. And what about one thing that you try to do every day?
I try to move every
Yeah.
day. Moving your body sometimes when you have work with meetings through Zoom and so much of you is like staying still and
Yeah.
um, not moving, even with a standing desk, you're not moving, you're standing
Yeah.
or you're sitting, but moving and even like dictating some of my emails while I'm walking
Yes.
around my neighborhood and then
Okay.
coming home and um,
That's actually a good idea. Dictate the emails.
Dictate the emails, and then you can still go through them when you get home, but the majority of the work is done.
Yeah.
So, but you have to move,
Yeah.
you
Yeah. I
know,
love
to
that.
stay youthful, and you have
That's
to
great.
pray also. That's two things. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, you can have
Moving
two.
and saying a prayer, starting your day right and ending it right. It makes all the difference because there is the source of all the wisdom that you need.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you tap into it?
Absolutely. No, I love that. You can move and pray at the same time too. I have a friend that she says she does exercise prayers all the time. So
That's amazing.
yeah,
It's a great idea.
love it. All right, what do you think I should try next?
Gosh, you already tried so many things. You're an amazing woman, but like something that's scary to you, but something that benefits other people.
Yeah.
Try that.
Okay.
Whatever
I love
that
that.
is.
I don't know. Maybe meeting some Ukrainian people or something.
Maybe.
I got my first one, so
Oh.
met you. So thank you. And where can people find you?
So people can always go to toukrainewithlove.org, and there's contact information there. My email is Svitlana, Svitlana at toukrainewithlove.org. And so
Do you have social media presence at all?
we do. We have a Facebook page, To Ukraine with Love US. We have Instagram, To Ukraine with Love US. You can join our social media and follow us. If you, we have several hot meal centers in destroyed communities in Ukraine where we serve 6,000 meals every single day.
Wow.
Including Sundays, 7 days a week. So the only days we're off are Christmas, New Year's, and Easter. The rest of the days we serve meals to people who have no access to warm meals, who have no heat, no gas in their communities. And if you sign up to feed someone, if you want to do it one time, it's for $10. You can feed someone every day for a month.
That's incredible.
That's 33 cents a meal.
Wow.
If you sign up to do that monthly, to donate $10, so if you could give up your favorite drink or a Cafe Rio meal, and feed someone every day for a month or several months, you will receive a video from that person saying thank you to you.
That's incredible.
So if you sign up, if you subscribe to that monthly donation of just even $10 to $30, that will feed 3 people every day for a month. Wow. But just even 10, you'll receive an individual video with subtitles and from a war-torn community when someone is saying thank you to you personally. They will call you by name and say thank you.
Oh, I love that so much. You've done some incredible work and continue to have great ideas. So it's clear that you came from a great place where you learned a lot of these skills and being able to do things. And your mom was very inspiring to all of us, I think. And you are continuing that legacy, and that's really impressive. So thank you for talking to me today. You're such a Sendy mom. So I'm really grateful you were on this podcast, and I really hope that it is something that is going to open some doors for you too, and all the good work that you're doing. So
I appreciate that so much. This podcast is amazing, and all the amazing women listening to it. I hope that each of them knows that, we're all extraordinary. It comes, we treat babies as priceless humans, but we don't lose that value. We're here to do extraordinary things. And also, we are never as alone as we fear in our work. Like, as long as we're wanting to do something worth doing, serving God's children in any capacity, good people will step up. We're never alone in this work.
That's right. Yeah. So, and everybody has different talents and different things that they can bring to the table. And we just be open about it and love each other. So
that's
I love
that. Thank you for this legacy of sending moms and just really talking to amazing women, just listening to your podcast. It gets you inspired on the days when you think, I don't know that I can face today. Yes, you can. You're a Sendy mom. There are lots of moms doing a lot harder things out there.
Yep. And we just get up and we get going.
You don't have to figure out the whole staircase one step, one stair at a time. Yeah, we can do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us on the Sendy Mom podcast today. And we will see you next time.
Thank you so much.
In the words of Eleanor Roosevelt, do something every day that scares you.